We're going to talk about 136 powers that POTUS gained when all of the states signed on as a national emergency. And we're also going to talk about origins and some other hints along the way. So hang in there, folks. I'll be right with you. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I came across this from the Brennan Center, which please bear in mind that the Brennan Center is pretty left-wing. It's considered progressive, and so they do have a bias, but they do put out some things that are fairly accurate when it comes to the law. And so this is called a Guide to Emergency Powers and Their Use. And it contains a listing of things that when President Trump signed off as a national emergency, with this whole virus thing, suddenly he has the power to do a lot more stuff. And here are 136 powers it gives him, although a lot of them aren't really going to be apropos for what we're going through right now. And so if you look at this, it gives a little bit of introduction here. And of course, they say they're nonpartisan, but it doesn't take you long to figure that out. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to bump it up a little bit here, but you have to have it down for the other that we're going to come to at the end. So I'll show that in a minute. But as we're going through here, it gives a little bit of a description about what can happen, that there are many types of emergency powers, some set forth in laws passed by Congress, others contained in secret presidential orders. One particularly important subset of these powers is a diverse collection of special statutory authorities that become available when the president or Congress declares a national emergency. Presidential declarations of national emergency are governed by the National Emergencies Act, which went into effect in 1978. Under this law, the president has significant discretion to declare a national emergency. There are no statutory limitations beyond the word emergency itself on what type of event qualifies. The law provides that a national emergency will terminate after a year unless the president renews it, but such renewals happen routinely. And while Congress may vote to terminate a presidentially declared state of emergency, it has done so only once in 4 decades in response to President Donald Trump's declaration of a national emergency to secure funding that Congress had expressly denied for the construction of a wall along the southern border. And of course it's going to be Trump, right? Of course it is. Congress voted to end that emergency, but the president vetoed Congress's resolution, and so the emergency remains in place. Way to go, President Trump. Building on previous research in this area, the Brennan Center has identified 123 statutory powers that may become available to the president when look at this, she declares a national emergency. Now I thought, okay, is that a typo? No, I don't think it was. Now, this was prepared originally. The first date on it is 2018, and then it was revised again, I guess, in 2019. But I thought that was very unusual that it said she declares a national emergency. An additional 13 statutory powers become available when a national emergency is declared by Congress. Our research on these 136 powers is presented in this guide. And so that's what this is all about. It has a couple of tables, and it says it's current as of September 4th of 2019. But like I said, the original version was 2018. I went back and I looked because as soon as I saw the her, I thought, wait a minute, did they prepare this for Hillary? You gotta wonder on that, because there's actually 2 instances of her when it's talking about the president. But what's really strange, and you can go through this, I thought, they do compile them all in one place, so it makes it very handy. But keep in mind that there is a little bit of left-wing bias when they talk about President Trump, definitely. You can see that. And you can go through all of this and read what all they have to say. And there are some of them that are no longer like it says here, for instance, one statute provides powers regarding an island in the Panama Canal Zone that the United States no longer controls, and another one exempts World War II veterans from the draft. I don't think that's a problem anymore. I really don't think any World War II veterans are worried about being drafted. But anyway, so most of them are still possible, but a lot of them are not. Many of them have never been enacted. They're just kind of sitting there with the possibility. But anyway, I went through, as soon as I saw the her, I thought, okay, let's look for she. And I put spaces around it so we'd only get the words. You know what? There's 6 instances of it. Oops, let me go back to the first one. Where is it? There. Okay, look at this. And they are all talking about a president. But what extra powers should the president have? When should she be able to access them? So then the next one is the one we read. Well, it was near that. Available to the president when she declares a national emergency. And then if she proclaims a threat of war, she can go further and take over wire communications facilities as well. And then that's both of those. And then this one is down here. And it says a governor can petition the president for a declaration of major disaster or emergency under this chapter when she reaches a finding that a disaster is of such severity and magnitude that effective response is beyond the capabilities of the state and affected local governments, and that federal assistance is necessary. So I thought it was kind of interesting that even talking about the governor, they had a she in there. And then the last time she is used is here. Any officer or employee of the United States designated by the president may order the release of materials in the strategic raw materials stockpile for use, sale, or other disposition if she determines that the release is required for purposes of the national defense. So again, thought it was kind of strange, especially if that came out in 1939, because obviously they wouldn't be talking about a she of any kind. So those are the she. And I thought, okay, well, if those are the she, then let's go through and let's look for a he. So I put in he with spaces around it, and I get 4. This is the first one, which is specifically talking about Obama. While there was arguably an economic crisis at the beginning of Obama's administration, he continued to invoke this emergency law throughout his 2 terms. Here's where they were saying that they were used as a pretext to deal with other problems, and they named Obama and Trump. They said Trump invoked non-existent economic crises to decrease or eliminate statutory pay increases for federal workers. I don't think that's how he did it, but I didn't have the time today to go look it up, but I just think it's really kind of strange that they did mention that, and that he invoked a 9/11 state of emergency in 2017 to fill a chronic shortage in Air Force pilots, which is not such a bad thing because Obama left him, high and dry in a lot of ways with the military. Obama was systematically dismantling our military. So anyway, okay, so that was the first one. Then we go on here, and this is another one. Upon being ordered to active duty for a period of more than 30 days in time of war or national emergency and being found physically qualified to perform that duty, the member ceases to be entitled to pension payments and instead becomes entitled to the pay and allowances authorized by law for the duty that he is performing. And that's just quoting from military manual their rules. So that's where that came from. And then the president, here's the only time, this is the only time that the he refers to the president. President may, if he deems it necessary in the interest of national security or defense, suspend or amend regulations applicable to stations or devices capable of emitting electromagnetic radiations. I thought that was kind of an interesting one there. And again, this is a chart that's at the very end of it. And then the fourth one was, this one also is the president. President may detail members of the armed forces to assist any country that he considers it advisable to assist in the interests of national defense. Okay, so there were 2 of them that were he. But there were 6, total of 4 uses of it. One applied to Obama, and then one applied to a military member that was put back into active duty. And so they would change their pay from the retirement pay to the active duty pay. And that's it. Then there were 6 instances of using she. I'm just saying that, okay? So anyway, if you go back up, I'm not going to go through all of this, but the colors on there, I need to bump it down here because for the charts to be visible. When you look at the charts, okay, here they are. And they go through and they give the U.S. code, they give the subject matter and the language dictating when powers become available, invocations and delegations of authority, and all that in this chart. And if you go on down here, then it has this chart, which is statutes available upon declaration of a national emergency. These are the things that President Trump could access if he needed to. Now, this color key here is kind of important because this gray color right here, no restrictions on president's power to invoke during a national emergency. So anything that's in this gray, he can use at will. This bright orangish yellow color right here, no meaningful restrictions on president's power to invoke during a national emergency. So these two right here, this gray and this bright yellowish orange, those two are pretty much giving the president any power that he needs in that area. These other two have restrictions. This green one is substantial restrictions. And then this one right here, this bluish grayish color, requires congressional declaration of national emergency. So when you go down through here, it's kind of interesting to look at the ones that are grayish and then that bright orange. So these are the things that he can do. Now, a lot of them have to do with dealing with the military and being able to add people to the military if he needs to, or give them overtime hours, things like that. But one of them, he can actually promote anybody who is qualified, that's the terminology that's used, to any rank in the military that he wants, up to a major general or a rear admiral. So he can't give him the highest level, but he could put them high up. So he can do that. And from the wording that I read on this, it didn't seem to have the requirement that they were in the military to begin with. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, you can go through, you can look at them. See, a lot of these are gray. And then here's one there might be a few restrictions, but not really much at all. He's pretty unrestricted in that. And that has to do with the Secretary of Health and Human Services may waive provisions of HIV health care services program to improve the health and safety of those receiving care under the program and the general public, but may not expend more than 5% of the funds allotted under the program for supplemental grants. Okay, some of these, I don't know what purpose they serve other than what they served at the time, maybe, and you got to kind of wonder where they came from. But one of them, and I don't know where it is in this, and I'm not going to look for it at this point, but it referenced 18 U.S. Code Section 2153, destruction of war material, war premises, or war utilities. Think about this. Whoever, when the United States is at war or in times of national emergency, as declared by the President or by the Congress, which we're in right now, with intent to injure, interfere with, or obstruct the United States or any associate nation in preparing for or carrying on the war or defense activities, or with reason to believe that his act may injure, interfere with, or obstruct the United States or any associate nation in preparing for or carrying on the war or defense activities, willfully injures, destroys, contaminates, or infects, or attempts to do so, injure, destroy, contaminate, or infect any war material, war premises, or war utilities shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 30 years, or both. Now, I got to ask you folks, if you knew that hydroxychloroquine was effective, and all the tests that we're seeing, like the French doctor, well, there's more than one now, there's several of them, and all the different doctors that are saying there's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to hurt people. Let's get it out there. Let's use it. It seems to be effective. And you were standing against that. In fact, you were telling people the opposite, that it would hurt them, that it was going to cause people to die if they used it. Don't you think that's obstructing the United States in carrying out its defense activity? Just seems to me like anybody in the press that was standing so strongly against our president on matters like this just seem like maybe this is a statute they're going to have to keep an eye on. Because, and the ones that are standing up with China and defending them, it just seems like maybe this statute could be something that's going to cause them trouble later on. And down here it talks about 2 or more persons conspire to violate this section, and 1 or more of such persons do any act to affect the object of the conspiracy. Each of the parties to such conspiracy shall be punished as provided in subsection A of this section. So I just think that this might be something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, because there are an awful lot of people that seem to be standing in the way and obstructing our president from protecting us. So just want to put that out there. Remember, I put all the links down below so you can read them on your own, share them on your own, and do your own research, because that's what's really important. Speaking of research, all of you probably need to spend just a few minutes and go to your state website and check out what the stats are, because I don't know for sure, but I'm kind of willing to bet that every state website right now has a COVID web page, that you can go to. You can find out data for your state. This is from the Indiana state, and it has here, the positive cases and everything, and the deaths and the total tested, all of this. And it's pretty easy to navigate. I think they did a good job putting it together, but there are some things I have questions about. And for instance, my particular county did have 17 at one point, and then the next day it had 10. So I'm not real sure how they have, positive cases, because see, it goes, and then it has deaths, and then it has tested. So it's kind of, I think they did a good job with this. And over here they have the ICU beds. And look at this. We have 46.6% free. They're available. And only 21.9% are in use for COVID. So I thought that was interesting. Ventilators. Oh, look at this. We have 75.4% available ventilators. So we didn't need hardly any that we have. We used only 13.8% were used for COVID. And they have 10.8% used for non-COVID. And you can see the demographics. And this appears to be the positive case one. That's the highest rate there, between 50 and 59. And yet the deaths, when you look at those, it really is very skewed down. That 50 to 59 only has a 7.1% chance. So not too much there. Anyway, but one of the questions that I have is the day-by-day thing here. They have the newly reported cases, but it's just kind of, I'm not sure how that works, because see, there's still numbers here. They had 578 on that day, but then the newly reported cases were 11. And here, same kind of a similar thing. They had 1 case, and then it says 630 newly reported. But when you look at the deaths, look at this. Okay, now I can understand these days right here having newly reported cases, but why do you have somebody back here that was a newly reported case? Or somebody here, or somebody here, or somebody here? Why are those newly reported cases? I just, a little strange, kind of makes me wonder. I just keeping an eye on things, though, and it does appear that it went down quite a bit right here, but then again, maybe they'll change that, and then it went back up, and now it's back down, and so I don't know why it's doing that. Why did it just change to blue? I don't know, maybe it just updated or something, I don't know. But anyway, total tests that they've had, It's just good to go and look at your own website, because there are 50 states, and if we all do just a little bit of research and go there, kind of keep an eye on them, see what's happening. And, you can always report to me down in the comments. That would be great if you want to give me a little lowdown on what's going on in your state. But, there's been 54,000 people tested in Indiana, and I think that's pretty good. I'm looking forward to the test that they get for the antibodies that show that you're already immune. I think that'll be huge. But anyway, this is something I wanted to show you, because in today's briefing, which I'm recording this on Friday night, so in today's briefing, they had a little bit of questioning that went back and forth about how the virus originated. Well, back in January 29th, ZeroHedge had this article. Is this the man behind the global coronavirus pandemic? Well, and it talked about the different things, had his biography here, and we discussed this. I actually did a video. In this video right here, it's about halfway through, I think. Yeah, right along in here somewhere, 10 minutes in or so, where I started on that, and that's the ZeroHedge thing. The link is actually down here in the description, so you can find that. Right here was the link. Oh, they got suspended from Twitter for this article. That was what I did, and then I included the article down here. Well, that was, like I said, back in January. At the end of January when he did that, my video was February 1st, I believe. Yeah, right there, February 1st. Oh, I like doing that. I wish all channels would put the date on there, because it doesn't matter if you see a craft video or a homesteading video or something like that that's from, a year or 2 or even 3 years ago. But when you're seeing news things, I hate it when they bring up news videos that are like a year or 2 or 3 years old. It's like, why? Yeah. So it does help. I'm glad I did it, because it's helped me. And I really need to go back and fix all the rest of them. But it's a lot of work, so I haven't had time to do that. But anyway, so that's when I did this video. Well, over here we have a new article. This is as of 4/17. And he says COVID-19 is a man-made virus. HIV discoverer says could only have been created in a lab. And he has this doctor right here. It says, Robert Miller writes that contrary to the narrative that is being pushed by the mainstream, that the COVID-19 virus was the result of a natural mutation and that it was transmitted to humans from bats via pangolins, Dr. Luc Montagnier, the man who discovered the HIV virus back in 1983, disagrees and is saying that the virus was man-made. Okay, now in the briefing today, Fauci did a lot of doublespeak, but it sounded to me like he was saying, no, it's just a natural progression that you could see in bats being transmitted to humans. I don't think so. And when you read this article back here, he gives documentation about it, because this guy was working on a paper. He actually names the person down here. And that's what they were yelling about, that he had doxed him. And he's the one that was really talking about the Wuhan Institute of Virology way back then. And, this was at the end of January, so long before everybody else. But anyway, I wanted to leave this article so you can go through and read it, because it's very interesting. This guy is a winner of Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2008, and he says, it came from a lab. It was created. So I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to leave it with you so you could read through it and share it. And then this is also very important, because Pompeo, the U.S. is asking China for access to Wuhan lab to determine coronavirus origins. Do you think they're going to let us in there? Yeah. But that's what he's asking for. So it's going to be interesting. And this is from Pompeo. He said this. So we are still asking the Chinese Communist Party to allow experts to get into that virology lab so we can determine precisely where this virus began. It's not political. This is about science and epidemiology. We need to understand what has taken place so that we can reduce risk to Americans in the days and weeks and months ahead and get the global economy back on track. It's very important. So, yeah, go for it, Pompeo. Get in there. Find the truth. Yeah. So, meanwhile, in Michigan, which is not too awful far from here, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has other things to say. And I'm telling you, this woman, she is trying her best to become one of the top stars in the Democrat Party. This is from The Blaze, by the way. And this is what she had to say about the A word, that they're life-sustaining. So, they're essentials. And she has some pretty bizarre ideas about what is essential and what isn't. And if you've been keeping up with things in Michigan, they had a big bunch of people protest her. And she mischaracterized who they were and said they were lots of bad names that I'm not going to say on here. But, she was just lying about it because there's videos and everything else where you can see that's not the truth. They were keeping to social distancing. It's not that they were complaining about that. It's just this woman has gone overboard. She has become a little tyrant. And she is loving every minute of it because when you see her interviewed, every time you see her interviewed and she's talking about people having to stay in for longer and that these rules will be enforced, she's smiling. This woman's not right upstairs. She just isn't. And of course, you can't have elective surgeries, but hey, you can have one of these. So, yeah, that kind of tells you all about her. And then I wanted to warn you about this if you still have a Facebook account, because they're going to start warning people who like or react to what they consider fake coronavirus news. Now remember who they have fact-checking it. Somebody from the actual lab in Wuhan. So, yeah, how accurate is that going to be? Yeah, this is not cool. But yes, if you like something or you react in any way, because they have the different types of reactions you can give, or you comment on it, then, you're going to be warned that you shouldn't do that because you are a bad person. Yeah. So this is the article. I mean, you can go on down below. It's from CNBC. And yeah. So then I wanted to just ask you for your opinions on this because here we go. We have 6 people that are non-civilians, and that probably means like they're law enforcement, like DOJ, FBI type people. 6 of them. Who would be your 6 that you think are going to be indicted really soon? Because John Solomon on Lou Dobbs said indictments are coming soon. So down below, tell me which 6 you think are going to be the first 6 to go. They have to be in the DOJ and the FBI, okay? So let's just say that. And then there's going to be some others that are civilians that'll fit in there. And then we get into the fun stuff. So just give me your opinions down below. I'd like to know who you're thinking are probably the first ones. I think Jim Comey's going to be like number 1. He's probably going to be the first one that will be indicted. Again, that really comes from the 17th letter of the alphabet. But there are 5 others. So who do you think the other 5 are? Okay, and then I want to leave you with a little bit of a giggle at the end here. This guy, he always comes up with fun stuff. And he's put a thread out that allows people to post their I'm on Team Joe memes, because evidently you can go to this Team Joe website and you can make your own, which is just opening it up. This is one that I found on the research board and I had to post it. You have to look at it for a minute, but yeah, it's Mike Bloomberg. I'm down here. Now, I'm not going to show you all of these because some of them get really yeah. So, but I will leave the thread down below and you can go and you can read them yourself, unless he gets spanked by Twitter for it. I don't know. Oh, so that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.